If you're trying to build anything today, maybe a company, a product, even just getting a new project going, it feels like this weird mix. Like huge opportunity, but also just, wow, so much noise.
Oh, definitely. The signal-to-noise ratio is, it's tough. You might have a great idea, but how do you even get seen?
Yeah.
How do you break through when I feel like everyone and their dog is building something too?
Exactly. And, well, that's why we're doing a deep dive today into this article From Startup Crash to AI Frontier Lessons in Resilience, Execution, and Vision.
Yeah, this piece, it comes from a really candid chat with a founder, and their journey is kind of a masterclass in navigating exactly that kind of thing.
Right.
They went from engineering, then, a startup that didn't quite make it, faced down a global crisis, managed to scale a huge business, and now they're digging into the cutting edge of AI.
It's quite a path full of twists and turns, and honestly, it feels packed with insights, doesn't it? Whether you're building something big yourself, or maybe just trying to adapt, or even just figure out how fast things are moving right now. Totally. So, our mission today, let's unpack this story. Let's see what key lessons really jump out specifically for you listening.
Okay, so let's start where the article does. It sets the scene, acknowledging that environment we just talked about. Today it's an era of massive opportunity for sure, but it's paired with just intense noise and competition.
Yeah, it paints this picture, right? Like any good idea, boom, you instantly see competitors. But then there's this huge kind of invisible layer of other people doing similar stuff too. It's crowded.
It really is. And the article uses this fascinating example, DeepSeek, to show how sometimes these big external forces can literally force a pivot, a valuable one.
Oh, right, the high frequency trading firm. So they're using like super powerful computers, lots of GPUs usually, right, for these lightning fast trading algorithms, stocks, milliseconds, that kind of thing.
Exactly that. Their whole business was built on that speed, that tech. But then, bam, regulations changed the game. It fundamentally messed with what they did.
So they had all this incredible infrastructure, this tech stack.
Right. But their main reason for having it suddenly shifted under their feet.
And instead of just, I don't know, folding, they looked at what they had, all those GPUs, that computing power, and they redirected it, completely shifted focus from trading to AI research.
And what's so interesting there is how a crisis, this external thing, this constraint, it didn't just limit them. It almost like it forced them into something new, maybe even bigger.
Yeah.
It's a great illustration. Constraints really can breed creativity, unlock stuff you wouldn't have thought of otherwise.
So, okay, taking that idea of forced redirection, adapting, how does that map onto the founder's own story in the article? Where did their journey begin?
Well, their path starts with a pretty solid tech foundation. Computer science at Waterloo, did some internships, spent about a year at Google. Kind of the classic path for a top engineering grad, right?
Mm-hmm. But then you mentioned that pullback to startups, the faster pace, maybe wanting to build something from scratch.
Exactly. That pull was strong. And it led to their first really big venture, founded back in 2016. It's a travel company built around chatbots.
Oh, yeah, I remember that wave. Everyone thought messenger apps and bots were going to be the next big thing for everything.
Right. So the initial idea, it made sense then. Automate travel booking, make it super quick via chatbot, save people time.
Seems logical.
But here's where that crucial thing about user behavior smacked them in the face. The article points out they realized their core users. Often, they had more time than money. So the main selling point of the chatbot saving time, it just didn't resonate. It wasn't the value they actually needed.
Wow, that's such a fundamental lesson, isn't it? Thinking you're offering value, but if it's not the right kind of value for your real users, it just falls flat. So this realization, this forced their first big pivot then.
Absolutely. A huge pivot. They shifted the entire focus to saving users money on travel. Like, forget the chatbot magic for a second. The core thing became finding the absolute best deals.
And they targeted a specific group.
Yeah, specifically targeting lower income consumers. Right. Folks where saving actual cash was the #1 priority.
Okay, so they found some footing with this, finding that product market fit around savings. They're building momentum, and then, well, 2020 arrives.
Ugh, yeah. COVID-19, for a travel business focused on deals, it was just devastating. The article says they lost 80% of their revenue, pretty much overnight.
80%? Wow. How do you even start to come back from that? What did the team actually do?
Well, this is where you really see the resilience piece. The article highlights a few key things they did. First, they got incredibly lean, like instantly cut marketing that wasn't clearly performing.
Makes sense. Tighten the belt immediately.
Then, They refocus what little efforts they had left specifically on essential workers, the people who were, still traveling out of necessity.
Okay, targeting a very narrow, still active segment. Smart move in that chaos. What else?
They had to urgently reevaluate their whole product market fit again, basically asking, okay, in this new world, who are our users now? What do they desperately need?
Constant reevaluation.
And some of the article mentions it sounds really impactful culturally.
Yeah.
They shared equity with the team members they unfortunately had to let go.
Seriously. That's powerful. Like, even in downsizing, showing solidarity. Says a lot about their leadership, I think.
It really does. And that brutal period, that rethinking and resilience, it actually set them up for the recovery and then some serious scaling later on. The article mentions they eventually secured an $85 million Series B round.
85 million. Wow. And the company itself changed, right? They rebranded as super.com, became something more than just travel.
Yeah, much more. They evolved into what the article calls a super app, diversifying way beyond just travel savings.
So what did they add?
Things like financial services, credit building tools, cashback programs, tapping into that core need their users clearly had,
Yeah.
saving and managing money better.
Got it. So building on that core user insight and the results.
Pretty impressive. According to the article, over 50 million users, $200 million in revenue, 250 employees. And they achieved profitability in real scale, after almost being completely wiped out.
That's some turnaround. The article also has this reflection from the founder about the SPAC bubble era. That seemed pretty telling.
Yeah, it contrasts their path, steady, methodical growth, actually breaking even, with all these competitors rushing to go public via SPACs, often at crazy valuations, while still burning tons of cash.
Right.
And it kind of hammers home this lesson that sometimes that slow, hard grind, the actual execution and focusing on fundamentals, it really does outlast the hype cycles.
It feels like it. And the founder shared that story, that anecdote about talking to, what was it, 145 investors.
145 investors just to get one single yes.
Man.
That level of persistence,
Yeah.
the article frames it perfectly. Grit is the edge. It's not always about being the smartest or having the flashiest idea or the most funding right out the gate.
It's about just not giving up.
Yeah, the sheer refusal, the willingness to keep knocking on doors even after, 144 no's. What do you think that kind of grit even looks like day to day when things are just awful?
Oh, gosh. I imagine it's less like a movie montage, and more just showing up every single day, making those calls you don't want to make, fixing the tiny bugs nobody sees, doing the really unglamorous stuff, even when you feel completely drained.
Yeah.
It's like the total opposite of chasing whatever shiny new thing pops up, just relentless focus on the boring stuff that actually builds something solid.
Exactly. It's that steady, sometimes almost mind-numbing execution that just accumulates over time into real progress.
Okay, so they built super.com to this huge scale, powered by that grit, that execution. But then the article talks about the founder shifting focus again, this time heavily towards AI.
Yeah, and this is an interesting turn, isn't it? Because as they admit themselves, super.com's core users, the ones focused on saving money, weren't really a natural fit for AI tools where the big promise is often saving time.
Right, that same user insight again.
But AI became this huge, personal obsession for the founder. They were just fascinated by it.
And they tried to bring some AI tools inside super.com, didn't they? But it sounds like that wasn't exactly smooth sailing either.
No, the article mentions friction there.
Yeah.
It really highlights how just because some cool tech exists doesn't mean you can just, plug it into your existing company workflow easily, especially not in a fast-moving remote setup like theirs.
Speed matters. Team distribution matters.
Yeah, those practicalities get in the way.
And then there's that really pivotal moment they talk about getting connected with Anthropic super early on. Like before Anthropic was the big name it is now.
Right. The founder saw the potential, had that early belief, that foresight, knew this was going to be huge.
Gee, it didn't lead anywhere.
Nope. Despite that early access, that strong conviction, the partnership just didn't materialize. The founder calls it a major regret. And it really drives home this crucial point the article makes. Timing plus belief add outcome. You can see the future, believe in the tech, even be early, but that doesn't automatically mean success or integration.
So what was missing then, do you think? Why wasn't just believing in it enough?
It seems like the article suggests it needed more structure, maybe better alignment within the organization. Or perhaps the timing, while early for the tech, just wasn't right for super.com at that moment.
Yeah, maybe the company itself wasn't ready or the use case wasn't clear enough yet for their specific users.
Exactly. It wasn't just about the founder's belief. That belief needed a practical path, an integration strategy that actually fit the company's needs and structure right then.
It really shows that even the most cutting-edge tech, it still needs a clear route to actually being usable by people.
Which ties into another lesson they mention. AI still needs a really clear user experience.
Right. There's the massive potential of AI, and then there's the reality of getting normal users, especially value-conscious ones like super.coms, to actually use it and get something out of it without adding complexity or, importantly, cost. That interface, that integration, it's just huge.
Absolutely critical. So what's the founder up to now? They stepped back from the CEO role, right?
Yeah, the article describes it as a personal evolution. They're now on the board at super.com, which has kind of freed them up to really dedicate time to exploring AI much more deeply.
Okay.
So they're investing in other founders in the space, creating content about innovation, really trying to stay right there at the AI frontier, looking at research, new tools, just understanding where it's all headed.
So if you look back at this whole arc, from that first startup attempt, getting through the COVID crisis, scaling super.com, and now this AI exploration, the article pulls out some really powerful core lessons, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really circles back like crisis as catalyst, how being forced to rebuild after COVID didn't just save them, it actually pushed them to diversify and become something maybe even bigger, more resilient than the original plan.
And reinforcing that early lesson again, user behavior matters. It was true for the chatbot idea, and it's still true for AI. You have to understand what value truly clicks with your actual users, not just what the cool tech could theoretically do.
Yeah, and the meta takeaway the article kind of leaves you with is really striking. Building anything significant, it's absolutely a marathon. It demands pivots, sure, but also that relentless execution and constant introspection, looking inward.
Definitely. And it stresses that the most critical resources aren't always just cash or the latest tech. It's things like clarity of vision, being able to adapt really quickly when things go sideways, and maybe most importantly, the capacity to relearn fast.
Relearn fast.
Those feel like the real engines driving progress through all the noise and disruption we talked about at the start.
And those lessons, they really connect back to all of us, right? I mean, whether you're building a company or just trying to navigate your own career in this, constantly changing world, or even just making sense of all the shifts happening.
Totally. These challenges, the noise, the unexpected hits, the need to adapt, they feel pretty universal right now.
So this founder's journey, starting in engineering, facing that startup failure, weathering a crisis that could have just ended everything, building something massive through just pure execution, and now looking forward towards AI, it's such a powerful picture of that marathon.
Yeah, we've really seen the resilience needed when it all goes wrong, haven't we? And the truth that, well, consistent execution often does beat fleeting hype. How vital it is to really get the people you're serving. And also the complexities, the real-world messiness of actually integrating even revolutionary tech like AI successfully.
And it really leaves you with something to chew on, doesn't it? For your own path, your own work or life.
Yeah.
When you face your own challenges, those disruptions, those moments that really feel like major setbacks.
How might seeing them, not just as, obstacles during we survive, but maybe as catalysts, how might that view actually unlock your next, maybe even more expansive opportunity?